Hi everyone, I'm Luke, and yesterday marked my 2 years on testosterone. In October 2019, I was lucky enough to start my testosterone. I was originally put on Sustanon until October 2020, where I was moved to Nebido, and I'm still currently on that, although I am hoping to change to gel at some point soon. So starting with the physical changes, the first one for me was hair. I started noticing weird little white random hairs around my cheeks and my chins at around 2 months of being on testosterone. Over a few weeks, I noticed that they started to actually then get dark and more started appearing around my cheeks, and eventually quite a few were up at the bottom of my hairline sort of thing. For me, it was around 8 months that I then had to start shaving because the hairs were just getting really, really scruffy and long, and it looked awful. And right now, I've kind of left it at the longest I would before I shave, and it's just on that scruffy end. And I now have to shave frequently, otherwise it gets like this very quickly, and it just doesn't look very nice because it's not full, if that makes sense. It gets really long with what I have, although I'm very happy with what I've got, but I haven't really got much here. It's only just starting to come in, sort of thing. That being said, looking at myself on the camera, I noticed more is starting to come through on my lip. I don't know if you can see that. But yeah, and around here I have just the odd few, which you don't know if you can see, but it's coming in slowly. I'm really happy with just being on 2 years that I've gotten this much growth of my beard. As well as my beard, I also noticed that my eyebrows changed quite quickly. They are a lot thicker now and have a much more masculine shape. Not that you can necessarily tell on here. In comparison to old photos, it's more obvious. But to be honest, just in general, my hair absolutely everywhere has just gone mental since being on testosterone. My chest and my stomach in particular, I had no hair there whatsoever before, and now it's just unbelievably hairy. I don't know if you'll be able to see on the camera, but that's just part of my chest, really. That's not even the worst of it. But yeah, I wasn't expecting to have so much hair over my torso. And I'm going to be honest, the same as with my butt, which I'm sure most trans guys will tell you. And the parts of my body that were already hairy just are 10 times more hairier now. It's to the point where my little pug can actually stand on my arm hairs and my leg hairs. When I'm laying down, he can manage to lay on them and pull them, and it really hurts. That's the only downside I can see of having hair growing. I also believe that in the past few months my hairline's actually started to recede, but when I ask people about it, they tell me that it's in my head and it's not actually visible. But when I look at old photos, it definitely wasn't that far back to me. I'm starting to get conscious about it, so I'll be keeping an eye on that over the next few months and hoping that it doesn't go too far back. I mean, I know it's more masculine, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's what I want. Another significant physical change for me was my voice. That was another thing that happened pretty quickly for me. I do feel a lot more confident in my voice now and feel like it has changed significantly since I started. I noticed that within the first, I'd say 2 months, I was just naturally talking at a level where I was happy. And yeah, since then it's only gotten better.
Hi, I'm Luke, and this is 1 day on testosterone.
Hi, I'm Luke, and this is my voice, 2 years on T. One thing I had never thought about is the way that I laugh. When I would laugh how I used to, my voice just wouldn't cope with it, and I would go into this high-pitched squeak sort of thing, which was absolutely hilarious, and I still do sometimes. My face shape is another thing that has changed on testosterone, and it sounds stupid, but I don't actually know exactly what it is. I can't pinpoint it, but when you compare a photo from now to a photo from before, it looks so different, but I'm not exactly sure what. I do feel that my face is wider, if that makes sense, and also longer. I also noticed after looking at my photo that I took yesterday to mark 2 years on T, looking back to my first day on T, I feel like my nose is actually slightly bigger. It's not as skinny and it's kind of wider. It doesn't look bad or out of proportion. It's just looking back, I feel like that is a slight change. My body shape's another change that I noticed alongside my face. For me, it was about a year being on testosterone to notice that my body had changed. One way I was able to tell about the fat redistribution was a lot more of my weight, rather than being spread across my body, was targeted at my stomach, and my belly shape was more round, like you would expect a man's belly. And when I was trying on my clothes that I've had for years, it's like suddenly my stomach wouldn't fit into tops that I had no issue before, and yet my hips would suddenly fit into trousers which I could never wear in the past. I've also noticed my shoulders changing dramatically, to the point where I now can't wear most of my t-shirts or shirts because my shoulders don't actually fit into them, and I have to wear everything oversized to be able to be comfortable. Now, I didn't really notice this change, it was more my mum that has, but my strength has increased. I'd say about a year ago she started mentioning it, so that had been a year on T, if not a little bit later. She always used to say that I was quite a weak person and that I wouldn't be able to lift very much, but like now I'm just lifting heavy things and putting them straight into the car or moving them around without even thinking about it. I guess over the past couple of months I have noticed times where I would not normally be able to do them, and now I'm doing it without any problem. So I would definitely say, actually, yes, that testosterone has increased my strength. One thing that I had never heard of being a side effect of testosterone was having an Adam's apple. I'd never actually heard anyone say that they had gotten one before from testosterone, so I had actually spent months panicking about something that was wrong with me, until I went to the doctors to only find out that it is a side effect of my testosterone. Who would have known? I never considered that it would be an Adam's apple because my one is so high, it doesn't seem like it would be that. You can't see it at all. You can only feel it. Even if I turn to the side, it's like all the way up here. So yeah, you can't see it, but I have it, and who knows? I didn't realise that was a side effect of testosterone, so there you go. So another thing that I ended up going to the doctors for, panicking about, because I thought it was something else wrong. Happens a lot with me. So around 9 months on T for me, my gum started to recede a bit, just on the bottom really, and only on a few as well. I don't know if you can see, that was a nice photo for you all. But my dentist said that it's actually a side effect of being on testosterone for a long time. Mine obviously reacted straight away. But yeah, that was a shock that I had no clue testosterone would have an impact on. You can't see it, it's not a problem. It's not damaging my teeth at all, it's just my gums are a little bit lower on some of my teeth. My final change on testosterone that made me go to the doctors was that I actually started finding loads and loads of lumps on my chesticles. I will call them that. So I checked mine at the beginning of the year. It was around 1 year, 4 months-ish on testosterone for me. And I found, I don't know how many lumps underneath my chesticles and along the side of my chest. Just little teeny bumps that were not there before. My GP then referred me to have a ultrasound to check that there was nothing serious going on, and the team at the hospital decided that it was nothing serious, which was obviously fantastic, but it's just where testosterone does the fat redistribution, and obviously your chesticles can get smaller on testosterone. So when the fat redistribution of my chest had started to happen, my body just started to clump all of that fat together and make it into little lumps rather than moving it on. My surgeon has said that there's not going to be any issue to my top surgery, so they aren't a concern, he'll just cut them straight out. Sweat. So I started testosterone and I started sweating excessively, and I was thinking, right, this is only going to be a couple of months and then it will go and my body will sort itself out. It won't be a problem anymore. That's not true. So my body had decided that it's going to continue sweating excessively for absolutely no reason. And that is one testosterone side effect that I am not a fan of. I also started testosterone and wasn't able to regulate my body temperature. I was always either extremely hot or absolutely freezing. And that was another thing that people normally say calms down, goes away after a while. But for me, I am always freezing now. And if I'm not absolutely freezing, I will be absolutely boiling. I don't know why that hasn't calmed down for me, but it's just something I have to live with. So this might be a little bit too much information, but I'm going to be completely honest with you guys because I've not really had anyone see this before. But my wee smells different directly after I've had a testosterone injection. Not a clue why. And it's literally only for a few hours, but There you go. I just think that's weird, and it kind of amuses me at the same time because I just don't get it. There you go. I just want to tell you what my experiences are. Now, staying on the kind of subject area that no one wants to discuss, which I didn't want to discuss, but as I just said, I'm being honest, I'm going to talk about it. So, with testosterone becomes bottom growth. Everyone knows it. I know it's normally like one of the very first things that people realise when they're on testosterone, like within a matter of weeks. But for me, that did not happen at all. I think I was on testosterone for probably about 5 or 6 months before I noticed absolutely anything that made me even question, could that be what bottom growth feels like? I don't know how everyone else is experiencing it, but for me, I'm only able to notice it for like a couple of days after my testosterone injections, and then it just goes again. What I mean by that is there's moments after my testosterone injection where my lower area is just a little bit uncomfortable and itchy when I'm like sat down or walking, and then after those couple of days it just kind of goes, and then I won't feel like that until my next injection. And it's not even every injection, to be honest, it's as and when it feels like it. I know I've had some bottom growth, but I don't think I've had anywhere near what other people would usually have. I know for so many other trans men, having bottom growth is so important to them because it alleviates their bottom dysphoria. But for me, I actually feel like it did the complete opposite. What I found is it's actually drawn attention to that area of my body a lot more and has made me realise what body I have rather than the one I want. So I'm actually glad with the very limited amount of bottom growth I've got. I know that loads of other people will disagree with me on that, but that's just my own personal experience. One thing that hasn't changed for me since being on testosterone is my period stopping. That is still something my body likes to fight against. Although I'm on that tablet, which obviously stops things from happening, I still know that my body is trying to do its cycle, because even since being on testosterone, I have had moments of spotting, and there was a time last year where my gender clinic changed northisterone to another tablet, which I was actually allergic to, and didn't work for me anyway. So for about 2 weeks, my body was just bleeding non-stop. But I'm hoping eventually my testosterone will sort itself out, so it will stop it, so I can come off the tablets and not have an issue, or I will just have to have my hysterectomy and hope that it gets sorted then. Now for the mental changes I've had on testosterone. So the first thing I've probably noticed, other than just being very confident, I feel emotions differently. I used to cry at everything. That is how I used to feel emotion. Now, I can't cry unless I am so stressed and upset that my body just doesn't know what else to do. Now, that doesn't sound like a big deal, not being able to cry, but for me, I hate it because I don't feel like I've processed something unless I cry, and I always feel the need to cry now, but I cannot physically do it. And instead of feeling upset and wanting to cry, I now get angry and frustrated, which makes me even more annoyed. I am so much more tired and drained and angry and frustrated and just generally quite there is the best way I can put it. But I do believe that that's not directly my testosterone actually making me feel that way, but instead it is making mental health issues, other issues that I already have, a lot worse, if that makes sense. But now the positives. The reason why I was on testosterone in the first place is my mental health and my happiness. I cannot begin to say how much better I am since starting this wonderful little injection. But simply having testosterone, I feel at peace with my body. And don't get me wrong, there are still loads of things that I have issues with, but oh my God, do I feel better. Just no longer doubting myself when I go in public, and actually being able to talk to people without feeling afraid to speak is unreal. It has honestly made every single part of my life so much better. I just cannot begin to explain how much better I am on this. It made me feel 1,000 times better than I was expecting. I could never have imagined how I would feel on it, and it's just so much more than I could ever have wished for. Other than physical and emotional mental changes that I felt on testosterone, One thing that I really wasn't expecting is any part of my identity to change, but it has significantly. I'd say other than like the happiness and the physical changes, it's been one of the most noticeable ones for me, and I do actually feel like it's contributed to my happiness and confidence levels. But now I'm at a stage where I'm actually comfortable with myself and who I am and my body. I've come to accept my like feminine side, and because of that I'm feeling like myself more than ever, and I'm just so much more happy to be myself 100%. I didn't realise I was pretending to like things like football when I couldn't care less, and hiding things like wanting to crochet and liking flowers and liking pink and wanting to wear certain shirts or clothing. And it's just freeing to not feel like I have to hide myself anymore. And I'm aware that that is due to the fact that I'm no longer being misgendered, so I don't have that fear of, well, if I do this, people are going to perceive me as a woman or feminine or not enough of a man, whatever. But that is one thing I'm very grateful for with my testosterone. You can tell by my room. The way I've decorated is not something I would have ever have done before my testosterone, because I would not have been strong enough in myself to have pink on my walls. The other part of my identity that changed, which I really wasn't expecting either, was my sexuality. Before I started testosterone, I was only attracted to men, and since being on it, I'd say from around the year mark for me, I started to now be attracted to women too. It's just a lot more fluid now. I don't feel the need to label it. My sexuality and the way I approach it is very different from my gender. I'd say I'm kind of like questioning at the moment, and I'm not really bothered to come to the conclusion. It is what it is, I guess, in my head. The way I see it is I now just think I will fall for who I fall for, and that is that. I'm not bothered about saying my sexuality is one thing or another. I just know that it's changed on testosterone. It's not as solid as it once was, and I am running with that, and I am free and happy with all of those changes too. That really does cover the majority of the changes, if not all of the changes I've seen on testosterone. I know there was quite a lot of random ones in there, but I wanted to be as honest as possible with you all, and I hope in some way you found it useful and you enjoyed watching the video. As always, my Instagram and blog will be down below in case you have any questions or want any more information, or just chuck it in the comments and I will have a look and answer anything there. See you later.